My name is Miles Vance, and I'm what you might call a micro-influencer in the homesteading world. My daily routine is pretty simple. I share snippets of my life out here in the country. On YouTube, and when I need to unwind, I'll fire up my console for a few rounds of whatever game I'm into. Life was quiet, and I made my peace with the fact that a guy like me was never going to hit it big. Then I woke up one morning and saw my subscriber count skyrocketing. I knew right then that my 15 minutes of fame had finally arrived. Before all this, I was basically invisible online. The small following I had was there for my flowers and my vegetable garden. Not for me, nobody bothers digging into the private life of a no-name gardening blogger. Even so, I was careful, meticulously careful. It was all for my wife. I've been secretly married for 5 years. My wife is Sophia Monroe, one of the biggest names in Hollywood right now. She started out as a nobody just like me, and a couple of years ago she got a lucky break. A small part in a blockbuster starring Mia Lister. Julian Croft. It was barely a speaking role, a forgettable side character. After that, her schedule exploded, and that's when our lives became a tightrope walk. I never really understood it. We were just two people with jobs, trying to make a living. Why couldn't we just tell people we were married? I tried to talk to her about it so many times. We were legally married after all. This constant hiding and sneaking around felt wrong. But once she got famous, her time was no longer her own. Every time I bring it up, her phone would ring, and she'd be whisked away to another meeting, another shoot. Our relationship went from being inseparable to long distance, and eventually, the internet was crawling with fanboys who saw her as their dream girl. At first, seeing their comments made me jealous. She never responded to them, just let the speculations whirl. She said it generated buzz, a kind of free publicity that didn't cost her anything. If things ever got out of hand, her management team would step in. So far, it had never occurred to anyone that she might be married. After all, when she hit the big time, she was only 25. A text from Sophia popped up on my phone. It had been sent at 10. By the time I saw it, it was already noon. Miles, I bought you a house, a villa with a front and backyard. I already ordered that chummy layout tree you wanted. I'll send you the address, though check it out when you have a minute. I knew I'd missed another chance to FaceTime with her. I can't remember when. Our conversations devolved into this, a series of missed calls and text message memos. She'd send me a lot of gifts over the past 2 years. I've never cared much for luxury brands. My only real passions are plants and trees. Years ago, with some help from our parents, we bought a small cottage with a little plot of land out in the country. She put me in charge of the yard. Do whatever you want with it, she'd said. No matter how you mess it up, I'll love it. Over the years, the flowers and trees she'd sown had filled every square inch of that yard. A few days ago, I posted on Instagram about wanting a specific camellia tree. I lamented that my yard, dominated by a beautiful silk tree, was just too small to accommodate it. And just like that, she made it happen. I didn't feel much of a thrill. It just felt inevitable. A new house was in the city, but we live in a pretty sleepy part of North Carolina. It's a third-tier city at best, and not the kind of place you'd find paparazzi lurking around every corner. I could move about freely without worrying about being recognized. I'd underestimated one. The more famous you are, the more trouble you attract. Sophia had been at the top for 2 years. When you're in the spotlight that long, you're bound to make some people jealous. No matter how careful you are, you always leave a trace. I was Sophia Monroe's indelible trace. As T said, the house was a gorgeous modern craftsman. My favorite style. It had huge front and backyards. This place wasn't just big enough for one chameleon tree. I could transplant my entire old garden here and still have room to spare. I smiled to myself. I'd have enough content for my YouTube channel for the next few years. Oh well, it was good to have something to do. It meant I'd have less time to dwell on Sophia. I walked through the yard completely absorbed, my mind already mapping out where everything would go. was so focused. I never noticed the telephoto lens glinting from a hidden spot across the street. Chapter 2: The viral explosion happened on the third day after my visit to the new house. I stared at my YouTube analytics page in disbelief. My latest video, which would normally top out at 100,000 views, had shot past 10 million. The numbers were still climbing, and the comments section was a chaotic flood of activity. A quick search on Twitter told me everything. Someone had leaked proof of Sophia buying the house, and came the photos of me checking it out. The narrative was set. Sophia was getting married, and she'd hired a niche gardening influencer to design the landscape for a marital home. I had to laugh. Comments were a goldmine of speculation. A lot of people said they loved the style of my little cottage garden. Some of her more possessive. Male fans were directly asking me if I'd met Sophia's fiancé, and not a single person guessed the truth. Miles don't reply to anyone. I would even read the comments. I understood her strategy, but it left me in a bind. What was I supposed to post next? I couldn't lie to my followers. Lies always come out eventually, and the fallout would be impossible to manage. But I couldn't just say, "Hey guys, this is my new yard" either. People would think I was a clout chaser, trying to ride Sophia's coattails. I mean, piggybacking on your own wife's fame isn't exactly shameful. If I handled it badly, it could blow up in both our faces. For the first time, I was feeling the raw force of internet fame, and I was completely overwhelmed. I suddenly wondered if this was what Sophia felt when she first blew up. This constant crushing weight of calculation and anxiety. My channel, which had hovered around 100,000 subscribers, shot past 1 million in 2 days. I knew the new followers were mostly Sophia's fans. They weren't here for my gardening tips. They were here for updates on Olive Nest. I decided to post another video about my old garden. Business as usual. The comments were instantly flooded with demands for an update on the new house. People were desperate to see the layout. I hadn't figured out how to respond, so I took Sophia's advice and said nothing. When I didn't respond, the fans just started debating among themselves. Some said we should dig a pool in the backyard. Others shot that down, saying a pool was tacky, hard to clean, and clashed with the craftsman architecture. Someone else suggested a treehouse for their future kids. Another popular idea was a long pergola covered in grapevines, so you could just reach up and pick fresh grapes in the summer. The suggestions came pouring in from all directions, and then I had an idea. I'd post a new video. The gist of it was simple. I'd come into possession of a new yard. I was stumped on how to design it. I wanted to hear my followers' ideas. I did mention Sophia Monroe once. Meanwhile, Sophia's camp had remained completely silent. Since the story broke. The internet is a funny thing. Once the initial novelty wears off, people lose interest, with the main players refusing to comment. The audience got bored and moved on. My video, however, quickly racked up thousands of suggestions. The conversation shifted from gossip about a celebrity's new house to a collaborative discussion about landscape design. The change in topic was startling. The most liked comment suggested building a gazebo with an attached trellis. I followed their advice, bought the materials, and filmed myself building it step by step. As I expected, the video was a huge hit. Next, people started suggesting what kind of climbing flowers to plant on the trellis. Then I went with the most liked comment and bought several varieties of clematis. For the next few weeks, I built my new garden according to the will of my followers. My subscriber count climbed daily. So did the ad revenue. It was intoxicatingly satisfying. So satisfying, in fact, that I started missing Sophia's messages. Stay true to yourself. Don't forget where you started. Miles, you haven't replied to me in a whole day. No more good morning or goodnight texts. Miles, don't forget to take a break from work. Miles Vance, don't you dare go too far. I wasn't ignoring her on purpose. Before, I would have replied the second I saw her name pop up. But now I was so consumed with planning and creating content that I'd see her message, mean to reply, get caught into something else, and then completely forget. In my mind, I convinced myself I had replied. It was well past 1 in the morning when Sophia finally appeared in front of me. I'd been hunched over my desk, tweaking a new design until my eyes burned. I was so engrossed, I didn't even notice another living person in the room until a glass of warm water was placed in front of me. I jumped, knocking the glass over. Water spilled all over my sketches. I frantically snatched them up. Luckily, they were just rough drafts, nothing critical. Miles, Sophia said, her voice trembling. You don't love me anymore. That's when it finally registered. My wife was home. Sophia had been so worried about that she'd skipped out on work, flying back secretly in the middle of the night. She was bundled up from head to toe, terrified of being recognized, dressed all in black. She looked like a ninja from an old martial arts movie. I couldn't remember the last time we'd seen each other in person. Looking at this woman, 2 years my junior, my heart ached. I just stood there, speechless, a lump forming in my throat. I reached out, wrapped an arm around her waist, and pulled her gently into me. I rested my chin in the crook of her neck, holding her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her. She hugged me back just as fiercely, letting out a long sigh. I'm going to fix everything. I didn't know what she was talking about, but I nodded numbly against her shoulder. I trusted her. She could handle anything. I can't stay long, she said, her voice muffled by my shirt. I have a shoot early tomorrow morning. I need to get some rest. I knew she had to leave, and I had no idea when I'd see her again. I just held her tighter, refusing to let go. I don't know when I fell asleep or when Sophia left. When I woke up, the sun was high in the sky. It was after 10. On the nightstand was a bouquet of roses, their gentle fragrance filling the room. The arrangement was clumsy, amateurish. I knew she'd cut them from my own garden. I smiled and reached for my phone, only to discover that all hell had broken loose in my comments section. While I was asleep, my followers had split into 2 warring factions, the OGs and the newbies. My original fans felt that my recent videos were too commercial, that I'd lost my authentic style. New fans, on the other hand, were thrilled. They felt like they were helping design the home for their favorite celebrity couple. Among the newcomers were a lot of Sophia's shippers, fans who were obsessed with her on-screen pairings. Over the years, Sophia had worked with a lot of male actors, creating several different Fan Imagine couples. The most popular ship by far was her and Julianne Croft, who the fans had dubbed #Cashin. So when the Cashin shippers started debating what kind of flowers Julian would like in the garden, the other shippers lost their minds, and my original followers were disgusted with all of them. It's an honor for this blogger to design a house for our Sophia and Julian. I don't get what you old fans are so bent out of shape about. Can the shippers please see themselves out? Her Miles doesn't need this gig, okay? Oh, please stop pretending. Without our Sophia, he'd have no followers at all. Comments like these flooded my feed, each one a tiny dagger. I sat at my desk, watching strangers argue about my wife's marriage to another man, punctuated by occasional insults directed at me. Aim really is a double-edged sword. It had brought me success, but it was also savaging my spirit. His wave of attention wasn't a gift, it was an assault. Over the next 2 days, Sophia texted me frequently. My wife knew me better than anyone. She'd send me little messages of encouragement. I stopped posting videos for 2 days. Not because I didn't know what to post, but because I couldn't stop thinking about our situation. I didn't know how much longer we could keep this up. It couldn't stay hidden forever. Sophia knew how I felt, and she kept reassuring me, if you're tired, just take a break for a few days. It's okay for us, I've already got a plan. As soon as I finish this movie, we won't have to hide anymore. Normally I would have gone back to my work and waited patiently for her to handle things. Now I couldn't find any peace. I was almost afraid to go online, terrified of what I might see. And Julian Croft somehow got my number. He called. while I was lying under the silk tree in my yard. "Hi, is this Miles Vance? This is Julian Croft." His voice was smooth and gentle. For a second, I didn't know what to say. Julian Croft, Julian Croft. He was a bona fide superstar in Diddle Sophia, and I had both looked up to when we were younger, the man who had been at the top of the industry for years. Yeah, I managed my voice flat, even though he was the subject of rumors with my wife. They knew it was all just marketing hype for their new movie. "Are you free?" Julian asked. "I'd like to meet up and talk." "Meet me?" What could we possibly have to talk about? We didn't travel in the same circles. It had to be about Sophia. Julian Croft also showed up at my cottage in the middle of the night, dressed in his own version of a ninja outfit. He didn't say much. He drank a glass of water, complimented my garden, and then left as quickly as he'd come. I knew he was afraid of being seen as an A-list star. He was constantly surrounded by a swarm of invisible paparazzi. One wrong move, and someone with an agenda could spin it into a career-damaging scandal. I was so naive. The next day, the top trending topics on Twitter were about Julian and Sophia. Someone had released photos of both of them visiting my cottage at night. The narrative was that Sophia and Julian had made a late-night visit to a new homes designer, and that wedding bells were just around the corner. I let out a bitter laugh. Sophia had visited days ago. Julian had come just last night. They had waited until after Julian's visit to release the photos. Was that really a coincidence? Sophia saw the news too. After half a day of radio silence, she suddenly appeared at my door that afternoon. It was the first time I had ever seen her truly furious. She was still in her costume from a set. The moment she saw me, she collapsed into my arms. I noticed her eyes were red-rimmed, her face a grim mask. "I'm so sorry, Miles. Is this because of Julian?" I asked. It was late afternoon, and her sudden appearance sent a jolt of panic through me. I could get stalked by paparazzi in the dead of night. What would happen in broad daylight? She laid out her original plan for me. She was going to wait until she finished shooting her current film, then where her next movie was released, she would announce our relationship. The media frenzy would be focused on the new film, and the news about us, while it would cause a stir, would quickly be overshadowed. She had encountered on Julian. She told me that after their first movie together, he had made a pass at her. Back then, she was still a nobody. Oh, so she played along with some of the harmless flirting. To keep things professional. Then Julian had asked her out directly. She had no choice but to tell him. She was already married. She thought that would be the end of it, that a star of his stature would back off gracefully. She was wrong. From that day on, Julian began to monitor her, surrounding her with his network of paparazzi, a person who had secretly photographed Sophia when she came to visit me, had been working for Julian. That's why he had deliberately found an excuse to visit my cottage himself, creating this manufactured timeline to make their relationship look real. But Julian's plan was that Sophia, backed into a corner, would have no choice but to go along with his narrative and confirm their romance. But he had underestimated how much she loved me. As soon as Sophia figured out what was happening, she dropped everything and rushed to my side. I listened quietly, a bitter taste in my mouth. I never knew. I had always seen her life as glamorous and easy, but I'd even resented her sometimes for not being home more. "It's okay," I said. "I'll support you from now on." She actually smiled, cupping my face in her hands. "Okay," she said playfully. "From now on, I'll depend on my big brother to take care of me." That day, before the media could spin the story any further, Sophia went public with our relationship. Julian Croft called me the second the news broke. His gentle tone from the other day was gone, replaced by raw anger. "Miles Vance, are you trying to ruin her?" Sophia snatched the phone from my hand. Her voice cold as ice. "Stay away from Miles. He's not like you people." "Sophia, calm down," Julian said, his voice dropping to a strained whisper. "I won't push you anymore, but we need to figure out a way to contain this. Have you seen what's happening online? It's a complete firestorm." You're the one who ruined my plan, Sophia retorted. There was a long pause. I just want to know one thing, Julian finally asked, his voice softening. Where did I lose? I looked at Sophia. I wanted to know the answer to that too. All these years. It would be a lie to say I never had my doubts. Sophia looked at me. A soft smile spreading across her face. Because my Miles is one of a kind. One of a kind. I didn't know what was so special about me. Sophia and I had grown up together. She was 2 years younger, so she'd always call me her big brother. As kids, she used to joke that she would marry me when we grew up, and on her 22nd birthday, she dragged me down to the county courthouse. Our relationship had always felt so natural, so preordained that I never imagined we'd be apart. It was as if we were destined to be together from the moment we were born. What if you had met me first? Julian asked after a long silence, his voice barely a tremor. I'm sorry, Sophia said without a moment's hesitation. I've known Miles since the day I was born. Shortly after Sophia's post, Julian released a carefully worded statement of his own. The gist of it was that he and I were best friends. I was a private person, not part of the industry, and didn't want my life under a microscope, which is why they kept the marriage a secret. He claimed that his flirtatious behavior with Sophia was all part of being a good friend, just helping his buddy keep an eye on his wife. Damn, it was a brilliant move. The online commentary instantly fractured, becoming a mess of confusion. I imagine the gossip mongers didn't even know what to make of it. I was in the middle of it. Even I was confused. This is the best I can do for you guys. Read a text from Julian. Miles, you know what to do next, right? What was I supposed to do? Start a public romance with him? Sophia sighed. A man is a genius. I asked, confused. Isn't this a good outcome? Julian's statement had painted me as some kind of noble, world-weary artist. And he hadn't mentioned Sophia in a way that implicated her at all. He got ahead of a narrative, Sophia explained. Why, he's but this to make himself look like a loyal, stand-up guy, and he used it to clarify that he's single. He's completely seized control of the story. We're just reacting to his moves. After she said that, a shiver went down my spine. We were being played like chess pieces. Had Sophia been living like this for years? Sophia, let me support you, I said again. It seemed like the only real solution I could offer. She just smiled. No need, Miles. You just keep being you. Whatever you were doing before, just keep doing it. Leave the rest to me. I wanted to do something, but I felt completely powerless. At least we don't have to hide anymore, I said, pulling her into an embrace. You can finally be my missus. Dance in peace. But a strange feeling crept over me. A sense of distance. Maybe my life had been too peaceful for too long. I couldn't handle the slightest storm. From the moment she got famous, I thought about how I would handle it, and we went public. But in that moment, I realized we were living into different worlds. I felt like I was losing my grip on her. Sophia stayed home with me for a few quiet days. We worked on the new yard together. Went to the nursery to pick out plants and cooked meals. I could feel the faint click of camera shutters in the distance, but Sophia acted as if she didn't notice. The thing I wanted to ask her what her plan was, but seeing her so happy, I couldn't bring myself to break the spell. I'm going back to the set tomorrow, she said one evening. I want you to come with me this time. Okay, I agreed. I was excited but also anxious, looking into Sophia's gentle eyes. All my fears melted away. She handled everything perfectly. I wasn't bothered by a single reporter or photographer. For a moment, I almost felt like she wasn't that famous at all. During the day, she would go to work on set and I'd stay in a hotel, out of boredom. I went online and found that she was dominating the trending topics. 7 of the top 10 were about her. The daily life Sophia and I shared. Her bringing me along to her film set. Every little detail had been secretly photographed. and published. The media was spinning a new narrative, painting Sophia as a loyal, devoted woman, and hailing us as the entertainment industry's new model couple. There were still a few negative comments, of course, that they would round out. By the overwhelming praise, it wasn't as scary as I'd imagined. After I returned to our cottage, my life settled back into its peaceful rhythm. It felt like I'd walked through the eye of a hurricane, but emerged completely dry. Sophia told me that at her level, she didn't really need to be afraid of public opinion. Her only concern was me. She was afraid I couldn't handle the pressure. Which is why she had been planning everything so carefully. Now, it had all worked out. I had been successfully branded as a man above the fray. I could continue doing what I loved without being harassed. She had unconditional faith in me. That seemed to be a silent, mutual understanding between us. I continued working on the new garden. The tone in my comments section began to shift again. It was filled with words of envy and admiration. And suddenly I had a new idea, a bold one I'd never considered before. I was going to build an entire estate. When I posted this idea as part of my next video, the response was unanimously positive. Let's get that back. A great wife and a great career. Miles Vance is living the dream. Where are you going to build this estate, Miles? Can we come visit? Does this mean we'll get to see Miles in person? More often, I was immersed in a wave of praise, but this time, I didn't feel the same giddy excitement as before. I started seriously planning the estate's construction, right down to its business model. I told Sophia about my idea. She was incredibly supportive, taking time off to introduce me to several renowned landscape architects and taking me on tours of different agricultural estates and boutique farms across the country. Since we got in public, she no longer shied away from showing affection in front of everyone. Fans commented that we were the reason they were starting to believe in love again. Then Julian called. He wanted to invest. He said that if I was just going to build a small, regional farm, it would be a waste of my talent. If I was going to do it, I should do it right. Make a real splash in the industry. I agreed to Julian's proposal, and sure enough, the move was met with rave reviews online. Julian, with his new loyal friend persona, gained another wave of fans. Even some of his former haters started to change their tune. I was so wrong about Julian Croft. He's such a good guy. The romance between Julian and Miles. Okay, converted. I'm officially a fan of this duo. Miles Vance is so lucky. He's got a wife the whole world envies, and a top-tier movie star for a best friend. This guy is straight out of a novel. He was surrounded by a bubble of happiness, and I tried to keep a level head. Julian sat across from me, smiling as he scrolled through the comments on his phone. Miles, you're still a little wary of me. Aren't you? He asked, testing the waters. I didn't know how to answer. I couldn't quite read him. I felt like we operated on completely different frequencies, and I couldn't help but maintain a certain distance. Julian seemed to read my mind. He laughed. I get it, Miles, but I've genuinely come to admire your character. To be honest, I almost don't want you to get too deep into this world. Admire my character. I was baffled. He wasn't exactly short on friends, and he was adored by millions of fans. Why would he develop a liking for his former rival? I never understood why Sophia loved you so much. Julian admitted, the truth is I was pursuing her for a long time, before you two went public. But she always told me she had a strict husband at home, and not exactly lacking for admirers yourself. I said, why Sophia? I knew Sophia so well that we had become an inseparable part of each other's lives. We were so used to one another that I had started to overlook what made her shine. Julian smiled, sipping the herbal tea I had brewed for him. Even after that viral explosion, you've managed to stay true to yourself. Not many people can do that. I used to think I was a pretty good judge of character, until I met you two. You too, yeah. You're different now. I find myself genuinely hoping you, to stay happy forever. You have this kind of aura. You make the people around you feel at ease. Totally unfinished with a sigh. He was dressed immaculately like a prince, but I could see a deep exhaustion in his eyes. I didn't press him for more. Instead, I felt a pang of sympathy for him. I'd always envied these glamorous, powerful figures, but my own personality was to lay back. My life felt almost as stable. After that candid conversation with Julian, my opinion of him changed. He didn't seem very happy. Behind the glamorous facade was a lonely soul. From that day on, our relationship became much closer. He handled the business side of things, contacting partners, managing public relations, while I focused solely on designing our network of estates. We decided to structure it as a chain, with uniquely styled estates in different regions. We also started selling the plants, 10 saplings we cultivated, to our followers who love gardening. Julian poured most of his energy into the new venture. I would write promotional copy for new plant releases. Then he would film and edit joy, engaging videos for social media. Homesteading Julian Croft is so hot. Ever since he started hanging out with Miles, Julian has a totally different vibe. Comments like these were common, and I had to agree. Julian's entire demeanor had changed. Our business was thriving. Miles, Julian said to me one day, "Do you know that after a long period of peace, there's always bound to be a storm?" A storm, we mean. They didn't get it. They were always talking about storms, but every time, they seemed to get through them unscathed. I'd stopped taking their warnings seriously. No one can stand to watch someone else be happy forever. Julian said grimly, "Miles, when you're too happy, people start to resent you." Chapter 7. Julian was right. A fan who had bought one of our saplings hosted a long complaint, claiming the plant had died and accusing us of selling diseased stock. As always, the internet piled on. One negative comment was followed by another, and then another. So people who had never even bought anything from us were fabricating their own stories. I knew they were just cashing in on their fame. They get famous and immediately start selling merch. They know their fans will buy anything. I wanted to fight back, to argue, but Sophia told me to just ignore it. I didn't know how to handle this. The backlash felt even more intense. Then when we gone public, and this time I had to face it on my own. Miles, just do what you do best, Julian advised. What I did best, the attachment, and the online trolls had gotten under my skin, and my first instinct was to argue. I lacked Julian's cool-headed rationality. After his advice, I took a different approach. I started a new video series, creating detailed tutorials on how to plant and care for each type of plant we sold. Julian was impressed with my strategy. He even got his own hands dirty, filming the entire growth process of the plants he was cultivating. Sure enough, within a few days, the tide of public opinion began to turn again. Patrols getting no reaction eventually got bored and gave up. Some of them, unable to get a rise out of us, actually became fans. They just wanted to be part of the conversation. Julie understood that dynamic far better than I did. Getting his approval gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. Our lives returned to a state of calm. There were still small ripples, but we learned to navigate them skillfully. People said I had changed, but I didn't feel it. Maybe I had just grown up through these trials. So I knew the universe had been kind to me. It gave me Sophia, and then it gave me Julian Miles. "I'm getting married," Julian announced one day, holding up his left hand to show off a simple plain ring on his finger. "I'm gonna need you to run the company for a while." The ring was a simple, unadorned band. Completely at odds with his A-list celebrity status. I stared at him in shock. "With who?" I asked. "A young, bright-eyed intern had recently started at our company, and I'd noticed the way Julian looked at her. It wasn't exactly professional." "Don't tell me it's a new intern." "Yeah," Julian nodded. Wide, genuine smile spread across his face. I was truly happy that my friend had found his other half. Julian clapped me on the shoulder. "You goofballs. After the wedding, I'm taking a long break, and after the break I think I'm going to retire from acting for good. So, while I'm gone, you'll have to manage things here. I get back and gonna need a job." I nodded. After all these years, I understood him pretty well. He was tired of the chaos of Hollywood. Perhaps this was the peace he had been searching for all along. After Julia and Sophia cleared some of her schedule, spending more time at home with me, I knew she was worried about me handling everything alone. This silly girl. She was supposed to be my little sister, but she was always the one worrying about me. When I finally proved I could manage the business on my own, she seemed almost disappointed. My big brother doesn't need me anymore, she pouted. Oh no, that's not it. I just don't want my darling to worry so much. I don't want to have so much free time, she murmured one quiet evening as we lay together under the camellia tree in our yard. What kind of trouble are you brewing now? The last time she'd spoken to me with that tone was right after her 20th birthday, when she tricked me into going to the courthouse. Miles, she whispered. Let's have a baby. And then she kissed me. Even though we were an old married couple, we had spent so much time apart that her sudden passion still made me feel a little shy. I tried to pull away, but she held me tight. You're not getting away, big brother. She was right. I wasn't getting away. Not in this lifetime. This is my story. It's a life that seems calm on the surface. It's the beautiful, simple life I always wanted. And the one she wanted too. It wasn't the dramatic, epic romance some might imagine, but it was richer and more colorful than most. Julian once told me that if any other man had been Sophia's husband, he would have never given up, but because it was me, he wished us well from the bottom of his heart. I understood what he meant, and I held on to the words Sophia had sent me in a text message long ago. Stay true to yourself. Don't forget where you started. Hey honey, I asked her one day much later, what do you think the baby will look like? Well, she said, striking a pose, being this gorgeous, they'll have to take after me, obviously.